Good evening, everybody. How are you doing? This is Rolando here with XY Spark. This is the show where we promote healthy masculinity. This is where we encourage men to go out and be the best version of themselves and seek to do serious introspection as they grow to become the man that they were originally born to be. And so this evening, we wanted to just engage your attention for a bit as we speak with you about the shame based family and how we identify those traits. We have recognized over time, as I do my own research and as I engage in my practice as a clinician in psychotherapy, I have noticed that more and more there are more men who are struggling with shame because of the environment that they were raised in. There are many men today who they are continuing the trend because it's what their parents knew, it's what their dad role modeled for them, and so they now are continuing this trend. And so this evening we wanted to talk a little bit about the shame based family. We want to identify those traits and we want to talk about ways that we are going to be able to combat that. I do hope those of you who have been paying attention to our website, if you have not yet subscribed to our website, we encourage you to subscribe to our website, contactxyspark.com. We just released an article there entitled 10 Seconds After Inhalation. It's a very interesting read. I hope that you can go subscribe to our website, become a subscriber of contactxyspark.com, and you will also get those blogs as soon as we put them out there. We also wanted to continue to say thank you to all those who have been listening and downloading our episodes. We are going beyond 6,500 downloads and counting right now, and we know that this would not have been possible without you. We continue to solicit your support by way of becoming a patron of XY Spark as well as a sponsor. We have a lot of sponsorship openings, and so if you want to be a sponsor of XY Spark, please reach out to us. You can email us at Hyman, that's HYM as in monkey, an Hyman at xyspark.info, and we'll be more than happy to read or promote your business here on the podcast. We just want to continue to say we just thank you. We started our podcast here for the first time in September of 2020, and so far, for over the past 6 months, you have been a phenomenal audience, and we just want to acknowledge you for being just as awesome as you are. We encourage you to continue to like, share, tell other men about what's happening here at XY Spark so that we can all work together to be empowered and to be encouraged. I also wanted to update you that we are coming in June. We are going to be having a men's march for mental health awareness, and this promises to be in different areas across Canada. And we're trying to encourage some of our friends there, even in the United States, to become a part of this move as we seek to shift the pendulum in that direction where more and more of our community is being mindful about how men are being impacted and how men's mental health is being impacted. And so, guys, we just want to say thank you again for being here with us. And this evening, please stay tuned as we go into our presentation, Shame Based Family Identifying the Traits. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Grief and loss, trauma, mental health, alcohol and drug use, gender roles, anger management, self-esteem, sexual abuse, domestic violence, and the pressures of societal norms or real-life issues that affect men. Join Rolando, psychotherapist, author, life coach, and motivational speaker that has dedicated his profession to working with men to find a healthier alternative to cope and handle these stressors. Rolando believes that men are lacking in social, psychological, emotional, and spiritual support that is necessary for a lifestyle that promotes healthy masculinity. We invite you to join us on XY Spark, where we discuss issues that men face. At XY Spark, we believe the key for happier families is restoring healthy masculinity.
Welcome back to our show. Thank you guys for staying tuned. And this evening we wanted to continue our conversation, and we'll be reading from our book Healing the Child Within, written by Charles Whitfield. And believe it or not, this book was published a number of years ago, but it still continues to be so applicable for us in this day and age. And so, as we continue, we want to start by talking about a shame based family and what that is. It says that when everyone in a dysfunctional family comes from and communicates with others from a base of shame, it may be described as shame based. Its appearance in such a family did not have their needs met as infants and children, nor usually as they continue into adulthood. They often use their children to meet many of these unmet needs. And so, if we were to reiterate on what Whitfield is saying here, it's saying that many families now, many dads, many moms, what they are doing is they are projecting onto their sons. They're projecting onto their sons and trying to get those needs met through their sons, those needs that weren't met for them when they were infants or when they were children or even as they become adults. And so if you come from a family where you find that your mom, your dad, and I'm speaking to you now. You may be a young man. You may be a man who is in middle of your life. You may be a little older. I'm saying that if you can connect with anything that is being said here, it could be that your parents have been projecting onto you, or they've been trying to get their needs met through you. That is a sign of a shame based family. It's like your dad is trying to get you to accomplish that thing that he did not. So he forces you, he's hard on you, he's very critical. If you go home and you tell him you got 97, he'll ask you what happened to your other three. If you go home and share something exciting with him, he'll ask you, why are you so excited about that? You should do better. And so in a shame-based family, I'm talking to someone right now. I'm talking to you as you're listening out there. A shame based family has some of those character traits. It's a shame based family often, though not always, have a secret. This secret may span all kinds of shameful conditions, from family violence to sexual abuse to alcoholism to having been in a concentration camp. So a shame-based family has so many different secrets that they refuse to even allow you to make mention of. To say it is like committing the unpardonable sin. To say it is like you have done something so gruesome that you deserve a life sentence for it. It says, or the secret may be as subtle as a lost job, a lost promotion, or a lost relationship. Keeping such secrets, and catch this now, keeping such secrets disables all members of the family, whether or not they know the secret. Wow. Can you imagine that? So, keeping secrets of that nature has a disabling influence. And this is why sometimes we find that some of us as men, we're not motivated, we're not driven. We feed into fear. We doubt ourselves. We don't set goals. We don't trace after our dreams enough because we have been fed this disabling portion from our family that's shame based. And so we want to look at ways that we can break away from this shame based mentality. It says the reason why persons are disabled after keeping the secret, it says this is because being secretive prevents the expression of questions, concern, and feelings. And so that is what I find a lot of us as men really are not doing enough of. because of the secret. We're not asking questions. We're not asking or mentioning what our concerns are, and feelings such as fear, anger, shame, guilt. We are not really paying attention to those. And what I want to appeal to all of our men who have been listening to Express Spark, it's just about time now for you to break out of that shell, break away from that false way of living your life, break away from that false belief, break away from that shame based family mentality, and start drinking from a different fountain, because the portion that you have been fed through the shame based family has kept you disabled now for a long time. And I want to encourage and say to you, your moment is now. It is your moment right now to break away from that and become the best version of yourself. It says here, this family cannot communicate freely, and the child within each family member remains stifled, unable to grow and to develop. So, if you were to examine your life now, do you sometimes feel like you're still a child? Do you sometimes feel like you're still stuck in that mentality? Do you still sometimes feel intimidated or anger when you go in the presence of your parents or in the presence of your siblings? Do you still feel sometimes insignificant, or feel like you have to, or feel like you don't have a voice? It's sometimes a part of what comes with being in a shame based family, and you want to start working to break away from that. Now, we want to talk about boundaries as it relates to that. It says, paradoxically, even though the family may communicate poorly, its members are nonetheless highly connected emotionally and through denial of and loyalty about keeping the secret. And so every family, and that's why many times, I've heard persons make mention that, yeah, my family and I, we're not too close, or who cares about my family things. And, oftentimes when you hear those utterances, it goes far deeper than that. There's an emotional connection, there's a dependency, there's an attachment that is there that impacts us. It affects the way we move ahead with our lives. Often it says one or more members are dysfunctional in some capacity, so other members take on their roles. Everyone learns to mind everyone else's business one way or another. And so if you have been raised in a family and you feel as though you're powerless, you're helpless, you don't have a voice, you're never heard, no one really looks in your direction, no one questions you about how you're doing or what's going on, it is saying a lot. It is talking about, could be possible that some emotional needs that you've got have never been met, and so you have that void, and that void continues. It says the boundaries of healthy and individuated people schematically has a certain kind of trait. Okay, it has a certain trait. Healthy relationships are open, flexible, and allow the fulfillment of some of one another's needs and rights. Let me say that for you again. In case you missed it, let me say it again. It says healthy relationships are open, flexible, and allow the fulfillment of some of one another's needs and rights, and support the mental, emotional, and spiritual growth of each person. That is so powerful and that's so loaded. I love this. Don't you love this? I just love this. There are some elements in here that we could spend the rest of the evening to speak about. Healthy relationships are open. In other words, you have to recognize that if you have a healthy relationship, there should be room for conversation and feedback. There should be room for questions to be asked. There should be room for exploration. There should be room where you're able to sit and talk about tough things and be able to come to some conclusion. It's open, it's flexible. It shouldn't be my way or the highway. Healthy relationships are flexible. You're able to connect with and grow together and explore. It's flexible. A healthy relationship allow the fulfillment of some of one another's needs and rights. So if the relationship is healthy, there are some rights that you have that's going to be acknowledged. There's some rights that the other person have that you're going to acknowledge. So healthy relationships are there, and it captures the needs and rights of others. It support the mental, emotional, and spiritual growth of each person. So healthy relationships are not selfish. If you were expecting something from the other person, you should be willing to give that. If you were hoping to gain something from the other person, you should be willing to give that. So healthy relationships, they support the mental, emotional, and spiritual growth of each other. Selfishness is so easy to be displayed in so many relationships. I could be in a position and I'm there and I'm saying, why isn't this happening? And then when my turn comes for me to do it, I'm not recognizing that I'm doing the same thing that I was there expecting the other person to do. And that's not a healthy relationship. That's unbalanced. That's selfish. That's me, self-centered. Okay? It says, while they are often intimate and close, their intensity has a flexible ebb and flow, and respects each member's needs and allows each to grow as individuals. Isn't that powerful? So the growth can't be just you. The growth has got to be collaborative. It's got to be, hey, today I'm going to take watering, tomorrow I'm going to give watering. I can't be the only one that's growing. I can't be the only one that's making ground. I can't be the only one that's gaining. There's got to be room. There's got to be consistency. There's got to be growth that continues. And so we talk about that family, that shame based family. Now, there is another expression that is so common that we know, okay? And that one specifically speaks about an enmeshed family, families that are enmeshed, you know, and believe it or not, an enmeshed or fused relationship, okay, it's when it's like there's a lot of intertwining, there's different things going on, families that are enmeshed, okay. And in an enmeshed family, believe it or not, there are so many traits there that is critical for us, critical for us. Okay, so many unhealthy traits that are there, and we have got to be able to pinpoint that, because if we're not seeing it, we may not recognize that we are products of a shame-based family, and we want to identify those traits. Families that are enmeshed, there's a lot of alcoholic or similarly troubled persons that are there. There's a lot of codependency. Okay, there are a lot of behaviors that are going on that we're not recognizing. Enmeshed or in or fused relationships are generally unhealthy. They are closed. No one is allowed to get in. No one within is allowed to go and talk about it. You know, what's critical is that even sometimes in churches they are enmeshed relationships where members are not supposed to go and seek support outside of their congregation. That's an enmeshed sort of a spiritually abusive leadership that we find sometimes in some uh, spiritual or so-called church places. Okay, it's unhealthy, it's closed, it's rigid, and it tends to discourage the fulfillment of one another's needs and rights. That those are the signs of an enmeshed family. I'm going to say it again. It's closed, it's rigid, and it tends to discourage the fulfillment of one another's needs and rights. And so, if you can relate to this, if this sounds familiar to you, you could be trapped in an enmeshed family. It says they tend not to support the mental, emotional, and spiritual growth of each person. And so, an enmeshed family is such a deadly space for you and me to be in. It says to survive in such an enmeshed relationship, we generally use several defenses. Here are the defenses that we use. Sometimes when you're in a mesh family, this is what we use to defend our families. We use things like these: denial. We deny the secret. We deny our feelings. We deny our pain. Okay? We protect. We project our pain onto others. And how do we do that? We're constantly attacking them. We're constantly on guard because we have something that we're hiding. So we attack, we blame, and we reject. Let me say that again for you in case you missed it. Here are the traits. Here are the things that we use when we want to survive an enmeshed relationship. Here are the defenses. We deny. So we live in denial. Okay. We deny our feelings, we deny the pain, we deny that there's a secret, there's a projection of our pain onto others where we attack, we blame, we reject. Okay. But we have to recognize that when we leave a shame based relationship, even though we may have survived and are still surviving, such a shame based and codependent stance of fear, guilt, denial, and attacking does not tend to work for us. So if you can relate to displaying any of these traits, my encouragement to you would be seek to get some professional help so that you can become the best version of yourself. When we leave an unhealthy relationship and try to use the same ways and defenses in relating that we used to survive in the unhealthy one, those ways and defenses don't tend to work well in the healthy relationship. So we want to do introspection and look, am I continuing a trend of unhealthy pattern in my relationship? The shame-based person is nearly always enmeshed in some way with one or more people. While we are in a dysfunctional shame-based relationship, we may feel like we are losing our mind. We're going crazy sometimes. When we try to test reality, we are unable to trust our senses, our feelings, and our reactions. So the shame has crippled us. The portion of the shame has crippled our ability to make good decisions. That's going to help us to grow. And so that's why sometimes we have some compulsive behaviors. Okay, sometimes we have some compulsive behaviors. We live our life in a shame-based environment and a codependent stance. Okay, and we start doing things and making decisions that are more harmful to us than we know. We try being real with others, and too often we're rejected or we're punished for it because there's that shame, and we are sort of self-sabotaging, so if you so to speak. Okay, and so to be real again, to express our feelings and to get our other needs met, it seems too scary. Besides, we're not used to doing this, so we defend ourselves against realizing our real needs and feelings, and so we do that so much, so much. We get into that place, and we want to recognize that when shame is a central issue, there are some things, and there's a cycle that we're caught in, where there's a continued chronic distress. There's internal defenses, they're always up. There's an alienation from our true self. We don't want anyone to know who that is. There are compulsive behaviors. Okay, we find that we are in that. There are some realization of our true self. There's a temporary relief from the tension, the suffering, and the numbness. Our self remains incomplete. We get back into that shame cycle, and we keep living in that process again and again. That's when shame is at the central of our beings. And so we want to recognize that. And if that's the pattern that we've been living in, we want to challenge it. Let me go through the pattern again. It starts with shame, goes on to continued chronic distress, then our internal defenses, they go up. We start alienate ourselves from our true self. We get into compulsive behaviors. Okay, then we come back to realizing our true self. Some relief happens, we remain incomplete, and we go back into the beginning of the shame cycle. Our real self is now alienated, and what we want to recognize is compulsive actions range across a wide spectrum of possible behaviors. And here are some: from heavy use of alcohol or other drugs, to short term intense relationships, to trying to control another person. Did you hear them? Let me say it to you again, guys. Compulsive actions range across a wide spectrum. Okay, let me read them for you again. Let me read them slowly. Of possible behaviors. It says from what? From heavy use of alcohol or drugs, to short term, intense relationships, or trying to control another person. Compulsive behaviors. It may involve overeating, oversexing, overworking, overspending, or even over attending self help group meetings. Wow. 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 So you see all the things, guys. You see, all those things are products of what? Compulsive actions. And so if we can identify with any of these, the challenge is there for us to break away from living our lives in this compulsive manner. This compulsive behavior tends to be negative in some way, such as self destruction or other kinds of destruction. So we are self destructing. Okay, it may produce crises as a side effect or may precipitate a crisis for self and for others. So we want to really be aware if we are wrapped up in this compulsive behavior. And so what we want to do is we want to look at ways that we can break away from these compulsive behaviors. We need we need others to help us heal ourselves. We need others to help us heal ourselves. We need to move away from those who are not helping us. As we begin to heal our shame, we may encounter stumbling blocks within us to prevent us from going ahead with our healing. These blocks include negative attitudes that we may have about ourselves, memories of facial expression or other images in people that made us feel shameful in the past that we now see in other people and possible in ourselves. And thirdly, the overshadowing or binding by shame of some important areas in our lives. Three places that sometimes keep us stuck. Okay? And the third one talks about areas in our lives. And here are the areas: our feelings, our healthy drive. For example, sexuality, aggression, hunger, and the need for intimacy. Our needs and or thoughts, especially if they are bad thoughts. So some of these things are things that blocks the healing, that keeps us stuck, that keeps us away from that process where we can develop and become the best version of ourselves. Guys, we are so appreciative that you decided to take the time to listen in to our program this evening, The Shame Based Family, Identifying the Traits. Our presentation will continue again come next Wednesday. We hope that you'll join us. We are on the air twice a week. On Saturday evening, we're here at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. If you're living in Pacific or Central region, if you're in the Pacific, it's going to be 1 hour earlier, so it would be 7 p.m. If you're living in the Eastern, it's going to be 2 hours later, which will be 10 p.m. But we do invite you to come and join us again. Subscribe, like, share our podcast, because as usual, we're here, and the one aim we have is to promote healthy masculinity and help more men to become the best version of themselves. Until next time, this is your boy Rolando with XY Spark. We thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you again real soon. Have a good night.
Please join Rolando next time on XY Spark as he engages us in practical discussions that promotes healthy masculinity and challenge men to live extraordinary lives. At XY Spark, we believe the key for happier families is restoring healthy masculinity.